Let's go.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the episode. And today I have in the house a new guest, Mr. Jordan, and I would welcome you with my open heart because it's a very important journey that you're going to share with us today. A true example of resilience, determination, and turning adversity into purpose that you have been living through in your life. From overcoming lifelong challenges to inspiring generations through football and power talks, his journey is nothing short than a remarkable journey. So you're on the screen next, Mr. Jordan. Can you please tell us about yourself? A few lines.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jordan, and thank you very much for having me today for your podcast. It's lovely to meet you, and I hope that you're keeping well today.
It's a pleasure, of course. It's a pleasure that to have you on the podcast too. All right, so let me just know more about you. Just try to understand your journey and so far. What are the issues you have been facing in life, and those challenges which are posing a strength to people around you in the society. So let me start with the first question. Talking about the first question, the basic challenges, biggest challenge that you have faced so far during your school time. What is that?
Yeah, so basically, I was born with a condition called dyspraxia, which affects your coordination element, which affects motor. So it can be fine work that you struggle with everyday movement. It can be coordination. It can be even writing. It can be um, even tripping myself up on pavement because it's referred to as clumsy child syndrome, or it was back then when I was diagnosed because I was a child, or clumsy syndrome as such. And yeah, it's been a very difficult journey in that respect because there's been so many different challenges. Every day I face challenges with dyspraxia. And the main thing really is that I still struggle to do, like in adult life, my shoelaces. So I have to have slip on shoes, or I can't drive a car because of the coordination element. So that's a really difficult challenge. However, the main difficult element that I struggled with in my early years was in infant school, at primary school. I was very young, and unfortunately, there was not much of an understanding about dyspraxia. So there was a few teachers that understood, but my last year teacher in primary school in year six used to bully me for it, unfortunately. So it wasn't a case of other peers. Like usually when you've been bullied, you'd associate it to the other students, right? So it was unusual with my teacher because it was the first day he sort of singled me out straight away that I needed that extra support, additional support. And for the rest of the year, it was just little elements that I found hard. So, for example, one element was if it came to a piece of art homework, I couldn't draw at all. I struggled to guide the pencil on the paper. Mum used to help me, still nothing. Um, it was just like a mind block. I could picture it in my head what I wanted to do, but then to transfer it onto paper was another matter. So it was in a sense of that my mum wrote a letter into my teacher at school saying John can't complete his art homework today. Um, for today's lesson, hope that's okay. Can Jordan do other bits of work or, have a bit of support for this, please? And my teacher just looked at that letter and read it out in front of the whole class. He laughed and then he threw it in the bin and said, "Well, deal with it." Pretty much. Poor Jordan Diddums, he can't do his art homework. And of course, when you're a student, that affects you big time. But as there's a big class of you, and because you're young, they cotton on to what the adult says. So the class was laughing, if you like, pretty much at my expense. So that was one experience that I'll obviously never forget, and it was traumatizing. Another time was like, so with sport, I find difficult. I mean, in terms of football, I wasn't really able to kick a ball as such until age 10, really. which was quite because of a delayed development side. So it came to PE in school with rounders. So with rounders, hit for ball or you catch it as an outfield. And this was in another lesson. So for ball was coming towards my direction, instead of catching the ball like that, I went like that and it just went past me. And the teacher pretty much just again pinned on that and went, Jordan can't catch a ball, everybody. What a shame. Everybody else can. Why can't he? And again, he made the whole class laugh, but there was me that was really struggling with that. So it made me feel, it shelled me up big time. And it was really traumatic because every day there was something that he used to disrespect, well, not disrespect, yeah, disrespect, but discriminate. It was the hardest time one of the hardest time I've had to endure in education for sure. Um, and as I say, it came about that I was getting to a point where I was bunking off school because I didn't want to be in that class environment. And mum used to say to me, well, why are you not going? Surely it's not stomach pains or whatever today. But after having counselling later in life, etc., and finding myself, them stomach pains were probably real in a sense because my body was so traumatized. So I didn't realise then, but obviously it was just like a reaction. But in the end, mum was like, okay, who's it? Like she said, you're being bullied, but who's bullying you? And it was pretty much, she said, is it this person? Because I had problems with it before. Was it this person? I said, no, not them. Who is it then? Tell me who it is. And she was getting more and more frustrated. And it just came out that the penny dropped. And I said, it's my teacher. And then since then, she gone absolutely crazy and mental, which I can imagine a parent would do in this situation. She fought with the school. The school didn't really take it in. They was just on the teacher's side. So there was a lot of battles with it, to be honest with you. And yeah, it's very hard. Why? I still question to this day, why was he like that with me? Because there was other students, if you like, you could say that maybe had a bit of lip in inverted commas and a bit of an attitude. But when they had that bit of lip or attitude, he seemed to back off. But when it was with myself, um, because I was so quiet and so you could say reserved and defensive, he just picked on that.
Can totally understand the way you have been struggling because the kind of mindset any kid would have at that point in time, at that age, I can totally relate to because it's not easy to understand even for the kids. I understand the reason why they have been bullying so far, though we don't encourage this kind of behavior. But then of course, it's very difficult to understand somebody else's issues and pains because understandably you go through yourself. So and because at that point in time nobody has this kind of perspective that you should try to fit yourself in the other person's boots. So of course, but the way you have lived through that span, that phase of your life is totally commendable. And so move into the better picture and a very positive image that the most powerful impact that you have been leading to your life as of now is the coaching that you have been doing so far as a coach, right? At the moment. So how did this change
Yes.
your confidence and perspective? And how did you think of becoming a coach at the first shot? Because somebody has
Well,
this kind of
that's
physical challenges, it's not very easy to choose that at the time.
yeah. I think that's a very good question. I mean, this is where it was different because when I was in senior school, secondary school, the school was completely different. They supported me through the dyspraxia journey, full stop. But it came to in my latter years of finishing school there, and it was one teacher that he used to say to me, Jordan, I know that you struggle taking part with the active side, the physical, taking part in the lessons. But while we're doing football, how about you originally help me set up for the class, if you like, and learn that way and take in. And because you love football. So talk to me while lessons going on what you love about football and the journey for that, if you like. So the journey was that I've been a football fanatic all my life, but obviously never been able to play to my peers level because of the dyspraxia element. So having that teacher that used to say to me, okay, it's okay that you struggle. You don't have to take part. And he didn't say it in these words, but how I perceive it, make embarrass yourself and make, you feel awkward. Um, but he was just very intelligent in a sense of that he said, right, okay, tell me what you see. And it came to words like I used to say, well, for the class, even though I was like 14, 15 then, I said, sorry, the class are compact. And he said, well, what do you mean by compact? And I said, well, they're just bunched together and they're not spread out like they should be, like you see on TV, for example. And he said, wow, that's very, that's very impressive. Like, so I was going back and forth, obviously, over a year with lessons with football, and he was teaching me little things, getting things ingrained into me. And he said, "Right, Jordan, this is really good. I want you, when you leave school, I implore you and encourage you to go into football coaching industry because of your knowledge for football, how I think you would be a good impact on communities, and just generally that it might be a life changer for you in that respect, that it could bring you out of your shell a bit more. So see what you think. Take a coaching qualification like your first one, get a feel for it, see how it goes. If you like it, obviously continue with it, If you don't, it's not for you, fine. You've tried something. But at least it's another qualification on your belt then as well, right? So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll look into that. And that's when I started, when I left school, and gone into college, I could start to apply for my first badge when I was in college, about 16, and I took it. And I have to be honest with you, it was the biggest life changer. And I do not look back now because it's been for my most incredible journey over a few years. Um, I've been able to do work with special needs students in senior at my old senior school where I was supported, which was just rewarding in itself, because what we had was like a lunchtime group, but it was called SHOTS, and SHOTS stands for Schools Helping Out Towards Success. So it was bringing everyone together. And it was like, in that sense, I saw students with dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism, ADHD, Asperger's, all them disabilities, if you like. And there was even some physical disabilities in there as well. Like there was kids that struggled with walking and so on and so forth. And it was a case of trying to build them up in a sense to hopefully encourage them to feel that they could go into the rest of their schooling in life with a bit more purpose, a bit more confidence, um, to feel that they could go to a teacher and ask for help. Because it used to be told to me at senior school by one teacher that said, it's okay to ask for help. There's no shame in it. So that made me think. And then he expanded on it. He went, I asked for help and I'm an adult. And there's no shame in that. If you ask for help, even in later in life, when you become an adult, that's okay. And it was the ethos of the school was family for life. That was the school's motto. So it was in a sense of when I've gone into coaching with their and other avenues, is to try and embroider that family for life ethos and motto later on in life. And what a better way to do it is than taking part in something that you love with football, something that brings people together. And, and as I say, it's a journey I've never forgotten because I've done that with for special needs youth under 17s and under 18s, which, in all fairness, was the biggest challenge of my entire life because I was still quite young. When I was given that under 17 position at a semi professional club, I was bordering 21 years of age myself then. So I was still quite a young pup trying to learn my trade in football, and of a big domain and a big institution, if you like, to go with their demands. Um, I've set up my own grassroots football club in the past, which I've really enjoyed doing with the help of others, for young adults like 18 and above to join, be part of, feel included, part of community. And I've also been part of another football club that's quite unique, quite yeah, it was quite a unique project in itself. And since then, I've now been with a team called Birchhanner, and it's a team that I absolutely love with all my heart because they're again young lads, but like in their early 20s. But it's trying to shape them for going in a life, to move forwards, to feel confidence, to go, yeah, enjoy their football, bring a swagger to their football in inverted commas, but to make them feel part of something special, something that they can bring their talent, bring their flair out. Because everyone's got a talent, right? So it's just to be able to expose and nurture that talent and to let the handbrake off. Because at that age, so many players that in their young 20s can feel a bit stuck. They can feel a bit reserved. They don't feel that they've got freedom. In a sense, what we try and do with Birchland is, yes, we encourage them, we motivate them, we do what we can to help their football. But we allow, if there's mistakes in there, don't berate or anything for don't berate them for it. Just let them learn from that. And that's part of life, is a learning lesson.
Very true, very true. All right, so what I can relate to very well is it's actually a blessing to find somebody at the right point in time to ultimately push you and support you, and to take you forward in case, I mean, anytime you're down in life, you during your lows, there's somebody to support you, and then to also give you this back support that okay, whatever happens in life, just try, make a try. So I guess that's the breaking point in your life where you actually went for this profession, and then you're enjoying that the most because when you have the talent and somebody's there to support you, maybe that's the point where you can shine, right? All right, very interesting story. All right, so to talk more about your so at the age of 21 was when you discovered that you ultimately were diagnosed by cancer, right? It's not very easy, and I'm sure it's a very difficult phase when somebody goes through this kind of diagnosis for the first time. So, what was your reaction at that point in time? What was in your mind, and then ultimately, how did you boost your encouragement, your resilience to ultimately be okay with that diagnosis?
Oh, well, I think this is it. Is when I was diagnosed at the age of 21, in all truthfulness, I was in disbelief. I felt like it was like, is it really the truth? Because the backstory of it, even, which it gives you and the listeners a bit of background on, is that even at age 11, I was told that I could have had cancer then. I didn't have cancer, but a doctor said to me, Jordan, you got cancer. But what it turned out to be was microcalcification. So it's like a pre-marker for cancer. Um, but yeah, that was at age 11. But through all age 11 to 18, I had to go for yearly ultrasound scans to make sure that that calcification didn't turn to cancer. And that was quite a mentally challenged period in itself because, again, I was going through school life where I had to carry a pillow around with me and I had to wear jogging bottoms for comfort. And for school, as I say, they were different. They were so supportive in that they was brilliant. Any comfort that I needed, they ensured that I had it. And it was because I had pain down there and everything like that. And it all stemmed originally from a bike ride that I went with my mum and brother at that age. And yeah, it was just a crazy, crazy situation to be in. But of course, when you get told at age 11 alone of Jordan, you've got cancer, my worst instant thought was, I'm going to die here. You know, even at that age, you think for worst case scenario. But then obviously, when it was reassured that there was nothing, then fine, okay. I'm having these checks done every year. They're going to make sure that I'm okay. That was a bit of a safety net for me. After when I struck 18, I was discharged from that team. They thought I was stable enough to be discharged. And it came to age 21. That's why I say it was in a bit of disbelief because I thought, hang on, I was told at age 11 that I had it, and it turned out it wasn't. What's the situation here? But when I saw the sonographer that did the test, he said, Jordan, I'm 95% sure it's cancer. That's what made me think, oh, crap, this is serious. Stronger words than that, obviously. But it was like, okay, he's pretty certain that he knows what he's talking about here, but I still don't believe it. And it was even leading up to the operation, which took a bit of a while. But I was like, this isn't real. This isn't real. This can't be real because I've gone through all that. But everyone was saying to me, you have got it. You have got it. And we need to act on it fast because it's just going to spread. And by the time I had my scan to the time of the operation, the tumor had actually doubled in size. So it was quite an aggressive tumor, which is quite frightening in looking back on it. But they still acted quick enough to get the operation done, remove the tumor, but they had to remove the testes with that. Now, that's come as a bit of a that came as a bit of a whirlwind then at that age because I thought, why am I getting this at 21? You know, and there was the questions then of again, am I going to die if it wasn't being treated quickly enough? The situation of am I going to be able to have a family later in life was another question mark. There was so many questions that I had in my head, but because it happened so in a sense of when I say it happened so quickly, so if we take it back, I had an appointment at a London hospital on a day that I had an appointment anyway. The consultant said to me in his exact words, and this was before this scan, ultrasound scan, I'm saying, he said to me, Jordan, I feel something's not right. Done the examination, not right, but you need an ultrasound, but you need it. You need to come back and see me in 3 months' time. The day after that is when I wasn't well, and I spoke to my GP, and my GP organised me to be pinpointed for this scan sooner and quicker, more locally, and that's when the scan was found. So if you put this into perspective, where I had one consultant saying to me, "Something's not right here," but see, you're getting 3 months' time. So then, within space of 3, 4 days, that I had that ultrasound going down locally, and they said 90 to 95% sure it's cancer. That's why I was like, what's going on here? And it was hard for my head to get around, really, because it was that quick turnaround. So, yeah, even though I repeated that, it was hard for the operation was done. Obviously, glad it was done, but there was still a lot of grey areas there. I wasn't offered counselling at the time. I wasn't offered sperm banking at the time. I wasn't offered even a prosthetic at the time, which all three things, considering it's quite a big diagnosis to go through at an early age. You could say still in for life, in for timeline of life. It was yeah, just getting my head around of right. I'm on my own with this. Apart from my family support, my friends support, what do I have to do here to get forward and go forward with this? And yeah, in the end, I did have a prosthetic inserted, but that had to be a separate operation. And I was offered sperm banking, but that was done at a later date. Now, that sounds quite open and quite forward to say all these things, but I want it to be in a case that and I will be trying to think how I can voice this in the future, because it's some sort of project that I've got going on in my brain that I want to achieve. Is I don't want any person, maybe young person, if they go through that, to go through what I had to go through, in a sense of never having any support around that time with the things that matter most, if you like. So that's one thing that that's given me a bit of perspective to push forward. But since the cancer diagnosis, and since I've adjusted, and since I've come to terms a bit more with it, is I've got to the point of, you've got one life, and you've got to make the most of that one life, because anything can happen at any time. And that means if you do things that you enjoy, if that means that you go and take risks in a sense for your career path or whatever, do it. Because you could only look back at the word regret. And regret's not a word that I use lightly. That's a word that I try and push away from as much as I can, because life is for living, and it's making the most of every opportunity that comes your way, really.
So I actually like the statement which says that, okay, you just have one life, just make the fullest of that life. So at least you have no regrets to look back when you look back in life. All right. So fine. So I will be holding you for long. Any last message for the audience who has been going through the podcast? So what is your last message for them?
Just be aware of life, make the most of life, as I say a moment ago. Be transparent, look after yourself, but be willing to let the world in. If you're having demons in that respect, open up, be transparent. There's no shame in that at all. You know, as one, to help one another with whatever adversity that we face in life. In terms of life goals, push them. If you feel that you're in your late teens, early 20s, 30s, 40s, even, if you've got a goal or you've got an aspiration or dream, go and push for it. What have you got to lose? You know, I think, yes, well, it says, like, in a sense of the tick boxes, we've got to pay bills, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. Yeah, I appreciate that we do, and we have to make ends meet in there along the way. But equally, you've got to feel that there's got to be some sort of satisfaction in there that gives you a bit of peace, a bit of like, I can achieve this, and no one's going to distract me from that. And be bold enough. If you take risks and they fail, if it's a few times that they don't come off, okay, you've learned. But if you keep on trying with it with perseverance, you can unlock so much potential in you that you didn't even realize that you had.
I would second the statement that you have been giving us through a beautiful message to the audience. I'm sure anybody who comes across the podcast would actually be inspired by the journey, by the way you have been living through life, and the outlook that you have. So it's majorly about the mindset. You know, it's all in the brain. So once you handle your brain, once you know what you're supposed to do in life, I guess life becomes easier. So thank you so much for this, for sharing your journey with us, and for finding time for us, because I understand you might be busy on Sunday, you might have your family time. So, but you were still up for the podcast. So I really appreciate that, the zeal of coming on the show. And so it's a very inspiring journey that I've come across through your story. So I wish you all the best and take care of yourself. Keep growing, keep shining. Thank you so much to be on the podcast today. Nice to meet you, of course.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and it's been a privilege to come on your podcast as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good day.
And you.
So this was Mr. Jordan on the show today, and his story reminds us that strength isn't about avoiding struggles, it's about raising every single time with those struggles in life. So let's continue to support his mission to inspire, to educate, to raise awareness for others facing invisible battles in life every now and then. So with this note, I would like to end the podcast today by saying that keep shining, keep growing, do not lose courage in life, and whatever challenges comes across, just fight through. So I'm sure you're going to be, achieving your goals very soon if you fight through, if you have that zeal the way he has it. So on this note, this is your host signing off. I'll see you next time with a fresh guest on the channel. Then keep shining, keep growing. This is your host signing off.